Hello everyone and welcome to Economicspedia. Today we are going to have a discussion on a very important topic from the developmental economics, and the topic is the Stolper-Samuelson theorem. So in this session we are mainly going to talk about the statement of the theorem, that is what the theorem is actually trying to say. Then followed by we will be discussing the assumptions that are important, and further we will be moving towards the derivation of the Stolper-Samuelson theorem. So let's start today's session. Stolper-Samuelson theorem. The main statement of this theorem says that when there is an increase in the relative price of a commodity which is labor intensive, then that increase in the relative price will benefit or will be better, will make the laborers of the country to be better off, and on the other hand the capitals will be worse off, and vice versa, provided that both the factors of production are being used in the production of some commodities. So what is it? The statement says that if there is an increase in the relative price of a labor intensive good, then this will benefit or make better off the laborers of the economy, and along with that worse off the capitals in the economy, and this holds vice versa as well. Alright, so this is the basic statement. Also, Stolper-Samuelson's theorem is used in order to prove the relationship between the commodity factor ratio and the factor price ratio. What is that? The commodity factor ratio, let's say we have Px by Py, and if X is labor intensive and Y is capital intensive, then the ratio of the factor price will be W by R, provided that X is the labor intensive and Y is capital intensive. So here W represents the wage rate and here R represents the rental price. Okay, so this relationship is also being stated from this Stolper-Samuelson theorem. Okay, now moving on to the assumptions that has been taken up by the Stolper-Samuelson in order to explain his theorems. So starting with the assumption number 1. First assumptions talks about that let us suppose that in the world there are only 2 countries. Okay, 2 countries are there and they are producing 2 commodities. And for this production they are employing 2 factors of production. What are the 2 factors of production? Let's say labor and capital. And as I said, 2 commodities. Let the commodity be cloth and steel. Cloth and steel. And this is labor and capital. Okay, this is the first assumption. Now moving on to the second assumption. It talks about the production function for each of the commodities. And there also it has been assumed that the production function are homogeneous of degree of order 1. That means the production function for each commodity is CRS, is following a constant returns to scale. So production functions are of CRS type. Now the factors of production, that is labor and capital. So the third assumption is related to the factors of production. Here it talks about the full employment of these factors of production. Full employment. Number 4. Fourth talks about the situation that there exists the perfect competition not only in the factor market but also in the final output market as well. So perfect competition prevails. Perfect competition in output and in the factor market. Okay. Next, the next assumptions talks about that the two factors, the two commodities that the economy is producing, that the world is producing, that is the cloth and steel. So here it is assumed that the cloth is a labor intensive commodity and steel is capital intensive commodity, and our home country is assumed to be labor intensive, labor abundant, we can say. This is for the home country. That means the other country, that means the foreign country, is capital abundant. Okay, so here it talks about the abundancy of the factors in home country and in the foreign country. So this is about this sixth assumption. Now the seventh assumption talks about the terms of trade between the two countries. They are assumed to be fixed. So the terms of trade are assumed to be fixed. This is the seventh assumption. The eighth assumption says that neither of the two commodities are used in the production of the other commodity. Okay, so there is no usage of the other commodity as an input in the production of the other commodity. So it means that there is no usage of cloth in the production of steel and vice versa. So 8 says that neither commodity is used as an intermediate or input in production of other commodity. Okay, next the assumption talks about the factors of production, that is the labor and capital, right? Next assumption talks about that the labor and capital, they are given in a fixed amount. They cannot be increased or decreased, that means they cannot be changed over time. So the ninth assumption talks about that the labor and capital, I am representing labor with L and capital with K. So here the labor and capital are given in fixed amounts. Okay, and finally the 10th and the final assumption is that there is no associated transportation cost. No transport cost. Alright, so these are the 10 assumptions that has been taken up by Stolper and Samuelson in order to explain their theorem. Now let's move to the derivation of the theorem and let's prove the theorem. So we are going to prove the theorem of Stolper and Samuelson with the help of Edgeworth Box. Okay, we can also prove it with the help of PPFs, but in this session we will mainly be focusing on the usage of the Edgeworth Box and how with the help of Edgeworth Box we can prove the theorems of Stolper and Samuelson. Let's proceed. So let's draw the Edgeworth Box. Okay, so this, let's say this is the Edgeworth Box, and here we have origin, let's say OA, and here we have origin, let's say OC. Okay, or let's just mark it as A, B and C, D. That will make it easier. A, let's say B, this is C and D. and I'm going to draw, okay, let's this AB axis be denoting the labor. So here we are denoting labor, here also we are denoting labor, this side capital, and so is this side also capital. Okay, and on this axis, from this origin we will mainly be considering the labor intensive good. So here we are measuring cloth, which is labor intensive, right? And on this side we will be measuring the capital intensive good, and the good is steel. So here we are measuring steel, and this is nothing but this capital intensive good. Now I am drawing the contact curve. Here you need to be very much careful about drawing the contact curve, because that has to be very much non-linear. Why? Because we have assumed that our home country is labor abundant and it producing the labor intensive good, that is the cloth. So for that reason our contact curve will be non-linear, and somewhere it will look like this. Okay, so this is our contact curve. Now let's begin our analysis. So before trade, that means the autarkic condition. Before trade, let's say the home country and the foreign country. So when discussing with the help of an Edgeworth box, we will mainly be considering and focusing only on the home country side, right? That how much of the two commodities that the home country will be producing. So here we are unable to capture the foreign country, but we will do it for the home country, for both the commodities that it is producing. Before trade, the home country is producing at, let's say, this is the position where the two isoquants are intersecting each other. Let this isoquant be y0, although I am not allowed to mark it beyond the Edgeworth box, so I am marking it within it, y0, and let's say this is x0, and let this be point be denoted as r. Okay, I hope it is visible. Alright, so here at this point r, the initial production is taking place. Now what is the capital labor ratio at r for the cloth? So I am erasing this. This is capital, okay? Okay. So the capital labor ratio at r for cloth, this is what? This is given by the slope of the ray, that is AR, that is from A to R, right? So if we draw a ray like this, that will give the slope of this ray will give me the capital labor ratio at point R for cloth. Let us denote this angle as alpha. So I am writing here, that is tan alpha, and it is coming from the slope of AR, tan alpha. Alright. Similarly, the capital labor ratio for steel at R, that means that will be coming from this ray, that is RC. Okay, and let us take this angle as beta. Okay, so similarly capital labor ratio at R for steel, we have the slope of RC, and that RC is given by tan beta, right? Now, so this is the condition what is going on before trade. Now let's say the trade is happening. So the two countries are interacting among each other. How the interaction is taking place? By exchange and exchange of the products. Now, for that, after trade, let us suppose that being labor intensive, the home country being the labor intensive, so that will increase the production of the labor intensive good, that is the cloth. So the production of cloth will unanimously goes up. And similarly, the production of steel in the home country will decrease. So let's say after trade, the production takes place at somewhere here. And this is a point of intersection of the two isoquants. Let's say this as y1 and this as x1. Okay. So point, let's say point S. So point S is the intersection of a higher isoquant x1 and a lower isoquant y1. So higher isoquant x1 implies that the production of cloth has gone up, and lower isoquant y1 implies that the production of cloth has decreased. Okay, so this is happening. Now, what is happening at point S? Let's there also find the capital labor ratio, then only we will be able to compare. So, after trade, what is it? At point S, right? So, capital labor ratio at S for cloth, what will it be? It will be the ray from AS, from the origin to the point S. So, slope of AS will be given by that. Let us take this as tan alpha 1. So, this curve I am taking it as alpha 1. And for the capital labor ratio at S for steel will be given by SC, right? So we have it, slope of SC, and let us denote it as beta 1. And so here we have it as tan beta 1. Okay, so we have obtained tan alpha 1, tan beta and tan beta 1. What to do with this? Let's see. Okay, so now we have found that tan alpha 1 is greater than tan alpha, right? In the same way, we have also found that tan beta 1 is greater than tan beta. This is alpha 1 and this is alpha. So we have it. Let's draw the price line at automatic position and at the place when the trade is taking place. For this I have to erase these lines. I hope you have marked it in your copies. And this is x0. So this line, let's say P0 is the initial price line, and let's say P1, or let me just draw it a solid line. Okay, P1 and P1. So this is the price line after the trade is taking place. So what are we getting? That ultimately by comparing these two, the price line at P1 is much more steeper than as compared to the price line at automatic position, right? So here we can write P1 and P1 is steeper than P0. So this implies what? That the price of the labor, that is the abundant factor, is going up relative to the price of the scarce factor. So here price of the abundant factor goes up relative to the price of scarce factor. So this actually means what? That W by R is going up because the price is becoming steeper, the price line is becoming steeper. So this implies the price is increasing, and ultimately we are getting that the ratio of the factor prices are also going up. So this is the statement that has been shown, that has been established by the Stolper and Samuelson, that it also established a relationship between the commodity price ratio with the factor price ratio. So here we have proved it with the help of these price lines. Okay. So after trade, what is the thing that we have noticed? That the production of the cloth, that is the labor intensive commodity, is going up, and simultaneously the production of the capital intensive commodity is going down. So because of this we can say that there will be a diversion from the capital intensive industries to the labor intensive industries. I am keeping this diagram because that will help us to understand more clearly. Okay, so we have said, we found that the cloth production is gone up and the steel production has gone down, right? So the cloth is using more labor, and rather we can say it is labor intensive. So due to labor intensive, the demand for labor is going up in the cloth industry, and the steel industry, it is capital intensive. So as the steel industry production is reducing, so here there will be excess supply of capital in the labor, or the demand for capital, let's see it like that, demand for capital is reducing, right? So there will be absorption of more labor and releasing of more capital into the economy. So because of this, there will be an excess demand for labor and excess supply of capital. So due to this we find, due to demand we find excess demand of labor and excess supply of capital, right? Now due to this excess demand, focus on the marginal productivity of labor. Due to excess demand, the marginal productivity of labor is going up, right? Let me write it up freshly. So excess demand of labor, this is causing the marginal productivity of labor in both the industries to go up due to diminishing marginal physical returns. And due to excess supply of capital, we can find that the marginal productivity of capital is reducing. Okay? Again, due to diminishing marginal physical returns. So due to these two reasons, we can find that there will be a shifting of the factors of production between the two industries in the country. And because of these changes, it will ultimately result in a magnification effect. What is magnification effect? That means when the change in the prices of the final commodity induces changes in the factor prices more than proportionately, then we have a magnification effect. That means suppose the price of cloth increases, then the price of the labor, that means wage, will be increasing more than proportionately. That situation is captured it as the magnification effect. Okay, so this is how we can say that there will be an increase in the employment of labor into the industry of cloth, and there will be an unemployment for the capital in the economy, the same economy that we are talking about, that is the home country, right? So, as I said, that the employment of labor is increasing. Employment of labor is increasing, so this implies that the income share of labor in the national income will be also increasing, right? Because more and more labor are getting employed. Now let's say what will happen to the capital. So there will be unemployment in the capital. So here, or we can say the employment of capital reduces, right? That says that the income share of capital in the national income will be reducing. So what have we learned? That is, with the change, with the increase in the price of the commodity, of labor intensive commodity, that is ultimately giving benefit to the laborers, because more and more laborers are getting employment, and as a result the absolute income share of laborers in the national income is rising, and the scarce factor, that is the capital, that the employment of capital is reducing, and ultimately we can find that the absolute income share of capital in the national income is reducing. So this whole analysis suggests that with an increase in the price of the commodity which is intensive in the factor abundance, that will help or that will benefit the factor which is in abundant amount, and harm or worse of the factor which is scarce in the economy, and vice versa it happens. So with this diagram and the extended theories, we have proved the Stolper-Samuelson theorem successfully. I hope you have understood, and if you have any kind of further doubt or queries related to any step of this Stolper-Samuelson theorem, please feel free to ask us below in the comment section. And thank you for watching this.